I squatted down for a bit. When I came back to my senses, my entire room had changed drastically. The numbness in my head was gone, and slowly I could tell blood was flowing to my extremities again. How long had I been squatting here? How many minutes? Or has it been hours? It was almost as if the hands on the clock had stopped moving the entire time my eyes were closed. That's how little time passed. Really? The air in the room wasn't filled with that madness from before, only a dull silence. And then Netta wasn't there pinning my arms, and Mion wasn't there about to inject me with a needle. No way. Could it be? All of it was a hallucination? There was no other presence in the room besides my own. It was the weirdest experience I'd ever had. I was certainly with Lena and Mion. I doubted my sanity for a moment, but I was also seized with some sort of comfort. I guess that terrible ordeal was a hallucination. Neither Lena nor Mion. They would never do something so terrible. My head grew hot. I could tell my emotions were welling up. Why? That wasn't a reason to cry. Why? It was sorrow. Why was I sad? I don't understand. I don't understand. Kind to everyone, not discriminating against age or gender. Mion. That Mion was sprawled by the window in an unnatural pose. Blood stained her a deep red from her head down to her chest. The bright crimson smeared on the walls. That had undoubtedly come from Mion. She always had that bright smile and was kind to me from the day I transferred. Nana. That same Rena was slumped at my feet and was making the same pool of blood as Mion. Couldn't comprehend what had happened. Did someone come to save me? Then they beat these two down with this metal bat? I finally noticed the weight in my right hand. How long had it been there? It was Satoshi's metal bat. It was covered in a deep red. There was no doubt that this was the weapon used to mutilate both of them. And I'm guessing that scene at the very beginning of this whole thing, where we were hearing the splats and what was assumedly Keiichi saying something along the lines of actually having been in love with one of them. That's what this was. That's what happened between those two scenes right now. And I was holding that weapon. I was the only person in the house. Looking at this objectively, I couldn't think of anyone other than myself who could have done it. I did this. That's right, Keiichi Maebara. Of course I did it. I told myself gently, as if coaxing myself. Hey, me. There's no reason for you to remember it, nor is there a need to regret it. Eat or be eaten. You get that, don't you? But the blood. There's so much. Neither Lena nor Mion had moved an inch. And it wasn't just a split forehead and a trickle of blood, nothing that simple. The entire room was splattered with red, and that told me it didn't end with just 2 or 3 strikes. Were they dead? Both of them? The depths of my mind were calm, but on the surface I was panicking and agitated. Calm down, Keiichi Maebara. What happened to your usual calm self? Come on now. Do you like you always do. Throw your head back and take a deep breath. Come on. Once, twice. Breathe deeply. Calm down. Calm down. I chanted that over and over in my head and relaxed. Color came back to my vision, and smells reinfused the air. At the same time, I remembered what happened when I blacked out. Ned and Mion had attacked me. They were about to inject me with whatever caused the same symptoms as Tomitake-san. Right before that happened, I fought back. I twisted my whole body and threw Rena as she was pinning my arms. Then I followed through with my spin and rammed my foot as hard as I could into Mion's torso. It was soft. Then I tried jumping on me, so I tackled her as hard as I could and slammed her against the wall. I didn't let that brief moment of having them off balance slip by. Satoshi's bed was left carelessly by the side of my desk. At that moment, everything went pitch black. There was nothing recorded past this point in the videotape of my mind. No, that wasn't right. It wasn't that there was nothing recorded. It was recorded just fine. The other me inside myself had told me not to look and had turned off the TV. Just because the screen had gone black and I couldn't see it, didn't mean that the videotape within me hadn't recorded it. The TV was just off. The video was still playing. The tape within me, creaking along, still playing. On the other end of that pitch-black screen, the horrifying video was still playing on. Compared to this, though, the scene before my eyes, was still so difficult to take in. There was blood splattered everywhere on the walls, the two of them in these unnatural poses. Not a sign of the movement from them. I couldn't even tell if they were breathing. No matter what the circumstances were, my friends, these girls, I had attacked them. I may have killed them. But if I hadn't done this, I would have been the one done for. Balancing that out in my imaginary scale, it felt odd that I'd even feel bad about it. Even if it was a bit excessive, it was justifiable self-defense. The proof was all here. Two of them collapsed here in Mion's syringe. Mion's syringe filled with some unknown drug would certainly solve the mystery surrounding the incident with Tomitake-san. And from the fact that both of these two were involved, they'd have to pick out the criminals one after the other. They'd be able to. Still, I might be suspected for this, but that was just fine. Anyway, now this should be a police affair. This wouldn't fade into the darkness like Lena's past incidents. As long as the police were involved, that should bring this to a close. They'll probably revisit their investigation on the chain of incidents. Oishi-san would definitely get to the bottom of it. Meaning, my wish. Of not wanting to die. Of wanting to know the truth. That would be fulfilled in its most basic form. It was all a matter of time now. The Dr. Lena called should be getting here soon. I'll confess everything to him. I needed to contact Oishi-san. At that moment I remembered. Besides the doctor, a manager had been called. It was easy to imagine that they were someone deeply involved with the incidents judging from Lena and Mihon's conversation. The ache in my chest caused by the gruesome deed I'd done dissipated rapidly. It was not over yet. This place was no longer safe. Stay calm, Keiichi Maibara. It's not over yet. I needed to live long enough to tell the police of this incident. At that moment I felt like I heard someone's voice from outside. Some people were speaking. It must mean there was more than one person. I moved the curtain ever so slightly and peered outside. It was a bizarre sight. About 4 or 5 grown men were all gathered at the gate. They very much resembled the 2 men who had assaulted me at the dam this site today. Those 2 might even be among them. There was one person wearing a white coat. But he didn't look like a doctor at all. My god told me he was in disguise, only posing as a doctor. The guy would probably ring the bell and get me to open the front door. Pretend to be a doctor and get me to open the door, and then the rest of them would all rush in at once. At that moment I saw the car parked behind the men, and my heart nearly skipped a beat. The white van! No mistaking it. That van. The one that had tried to run me down. The man in the white coat entered the gate and headed towards the front door. The rest of the men hid in the bushes and watched him. I probably couldn't pretend that I wasn't home. Undoubtedly, they just break the window and enter. I needed to get out of here somehow. Then, use a public phone to contact Oishi-san. Then meet up somewhere. First of all, I need a weapon. Then shoes. But before all of that, there was one thing I had to do. I had no intention of dying. I had to live and reveal the truth about this nonsensical curse of Yashiro-sama. But what happened from here on, regardless of how determined I was, may bring about my demise. And that was why. There was one thing more important than getting out of here right now. I need to get that clock out, quickly, and take down the note hidden behind it. Damn it! The tape was sticking to it fast! It'd be fine if it was torn a little. I opened up the slightly torn note and began writing another passage with a ballpoint pen. If I wasn't able to inform Oishi-san that the only thing I could rely on was this note, I'd never thought a piece of torn college-ruled notebook paper could be this reliable before. I had no time. I'd only write what I knew right now. I needed to leave some sort of information that would lead them to uncover the truth. Nana and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. This was an undeniable fact. I still didn't want to believe it, but it was a fact. Anyway, I'd leave all the information that would help lead them to finding the perpetrators. There were 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This was everything I was able to see from the window. There may be more. Also, there was an unidentified person known as the manager. To begin with, the term manager didn't even mesh with Hinamizawa at all. If they were going to include the managers from the past incidents, then the only one is the construction foreman, the victim from the first murder. The very first victim in the chain of incidents. Killed in a lynching, his body divided into 6 pieces. His right arm was never discovered. The police should have confirmed that death. But Anna and Mion did both call him manager. They said manager. They wouldn't use that term to refer to someone who was dead. The police would never even conceive that someone who was deceased could be involved. Could that be some sort of oversight? I didn't know. But even if I did know, it could be a big hint for Oishi-san. That's right. They needed to start fresh from the first incident. It wasn't just a simple dismemberment, but the start of this string of mysterious death that would follow. So then, there must be something hidden there. Please reinvestigate the victim from the dismemberment incident. He's alive. His death should have been established after an autopsy. Logically, you would think as much. But was that really the case? Could it have been some sort of ploy that they were able to deceive the police with? I shouldn't jump to conclusions, but he may still be alive. I had no time to ponder that right now. Oh yeah, there's something even more important I needed to write. Tomitaki-san's death was from an unknown drug. That's right, that drug. It was an irreplaceable piece of evidence. No doubt, just by having this, everything would be uncovered. I couldn't just leave that vital clue lying on the floor. The syringe is proof. Writing that down, I stuck the syringe onto the back of the clock with plenty of tape. So it absolutely would not slip out and fall to the floor. Firmly. Firmly. The bell rang. They were here. I couldn't write anymore, but even still, there was one last thing I had to write. I have no idea why it's become like this. This may be the closest thing to the truth out of everything I wrote in this note. If you're reading this, then I'm probably already dead. Though you may or may not find my body. If I was going to write out everything that could happen, either dying from the curse or being demoned away, you who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. With this, my last will and testament was complete. I wasn't certain that I was going to die, but it was my final plea, just in case. I folded the note, stuck it back on the back of the clock, and returned the clock back to its usual spot. I couldn't help but pray. Oishi-san, if something happens to me, I leave the rest to you. After that, I gazed down silently at Nana and Mion. This is probably the last time we'd ever see each other. Nana, Mion, I really had thought all of us were friends. But why did it end up like this? I never had any fun in my previous school. I was only worried about standardized test scores. About if the school I hoped to get into was where I really wanted to go or a safety net. That was all I talked about. It was a dull life. The people I called friends were also my rivals in studying. Competitions, personal records, standardized test scores. Everyone here taught me how unhealthy that lifestyle was. This month really was fun. Making a fuss over lunch, making a fuss over the club, making a fuss over the festival. Something hot began dripping from my face. Uncontrollable tears. I should have no obligation to shed tears for them. But they wouldn't stop. Even if they were after my life. Even if they were trying to kill me. After everything that happened this month, I wouldn't forget it. Or could it be? Those happy days were all a facade as well. Was it all a trap, meticulously orchestrated on Batonda Day to ensnare me? Could it have been that I just arbitrarily assumed that they were my friends? That couldn't have been the case. Balsan and Mion, they really were my friends. Those happy days, there was nothing fake or unclear about them. Someone probably forced them to try and kill me. Or their minds were taken over, possessed by the supernatural entity known as Oyashiro-sama. Regardless, both Lena and Mion, they were the best friends ever. And when they were coming after me, it wasn't of their own volition. Wait, they weren't the kind of people to sell off their friends. Regardless of whether or not they were forced. There was no way such a thing like being possessed by Oyashiro-sama could happen in reality. Then, did the real Nena and Mion come after me? What was I thinking? What a silly, dumb idea. Having beaten down both Nena and Mion, I was still debating if they were the real ones or fakes. There was no real or fake, only the reality that was before me. Nena and Mion were sprawled out at my feet. That was the only truth. I was only trying to twist the facts to my benefit, that I'd beaten my friends to death. No matter how I spun it, it wouldn't change reality. Lena and Mion were both dead. It felt like there was a crack in the dam of strange emotions I was holding back. It felt like my calm state, which was nothing more than a bluff, had receded, and in that opening, insanity was leaking out. I killed them. I killed them. Lena and Mion. I killed them. The doorbell rang again. The unrelenting echo pulled me back into a state of composure once again. I didn't have a moment to spare. Quickly, I needed to get away. I didn't want to die. I would uncover everything after that. The identity of whoever or whatever had pushed me this far. Even if I had to drink mud and eat grass. I would survive. I would survive. I would definitely survive. I killed Nena for that very reason. I also killed Mion. I went that far just to keep living. So I can't die. For my sake and for the sake of the late Nena and Mion. I have to survive. I ran towards the door and grabbed my shoes. The doorbell rang again as if to urge me on. Behind the single solitary door, they were there. Keeping quiet, I headed towards the kitchen. Headed towards the back door. Before opening the back door, I put my ear to it and checked for people outside. No one? After I put my shoes on, I opened the door slowly so as to not make a sound. There he is! The back door! A piercing voice echoed out. That voice stabbed through me, setting my hair on end. I had to run. Get out of here, Keiichi. One after another, I feel like the rationale and intelligence, those things used when you have time to spare, spill out of me. I didn't feel any pain from the branches scratching at my arms and forehead. My autonomously pulsing heart also felt neither fatigue nor pain. My entire being just wished to live. There was nothing else that it desired. It probably had no complaints whatsoever, so of course I wouldn't feel fatigue. I just ran, just recklessly rushing in the direction I was already heading. Even if nobody was chasing after me, I'd still be running like this. There wasn't a single thought in my mind where I was headed. Turning around, I felt the presence right next to me. That presence was, without a doubt, chasing me like my shadow. Even if I took one misstep, I would be devoured. That's what I thought. So I didn't turn around. I didn't stop. I ran, at full speed. That was the chirping of the Higurashi telling me it was evening, trying to tell me something, and then I finally heard it. The wailing cry of the victims who didn't make it. Would I be joining them? Only the Higurashi knew. They knew everything. They definitely knew. So I ran towards where I could hear more of the Higurashi's chirps. But the farther I ran, the farther away their chirping became. I couldn't get near them. Why are you all running away? Was it my fault? Was I the one to blame? Then I'll apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Doing exactly what Rena did. I felt that only the Higurashi knew. The smoky room was filled with a cloud of cigarette smoke. The expensive smoke filter gave off some crackling electric noise, but it didn't seem like it was doing anything at all. Why do smokers have to be shoved so far down this corridor where the sun didn't even reach? I recalled hearing that the tax revenue from the tobacco was about 1/10 of the municipality's revenue. We were both most heavily taxed members of the municipality, so I really wish they show us a little more respect. Why would you discard the 5 manzu there? It's just decreasing your options. One of the younger detectives was having a staring contest with the Mahjong magazine called Next Turn. You're still in tenpai if you cut the 5 manzu. If you're betting on a haite, then you shouldn't be going into it with a mangan? Kuma-chan, look at the pond. They all discarded a 5 manzu. It's a safe tile. You'd hate if, at endgame, someone was sitting on a tenpai on the last turn, wouldn't you? The kid let out another groan, put out his cigarette, then took out another one. I just don't agree. Why would you reduce your own options? By the way, you can't call Ron with your winning tile in that haite. What? Why's that? Just then I heard a voice coming from down the hall. Are you here, Oishi-san? You have a call from a civilian. Whoa, ain't that something? Well, see you soon. Why can't you call Ron on it? Hold on for a second. Oishi-san! The man sitting in the seat Oishi-san was heading towards waved at the telephone receiver. Outside line. From a payphone. Oh, why thank you. Sorry to keep you waiting. This is Oishi. Who is it? Oishi-san! Hello? If it isn't Mayabara-san. Why, good evening. From the tone of Mayabara-kun's voice, I already knew he was in a predicament. This was the first time Mayabara-kun had phoned me. And he was calling from a payphone. Please, calm down. Did something happen? Well... His voice was erratic over the line. I had completely lost his sense of composure. After checking that nobody else could hear, I prompted him in a hushed tone. What happened? Calm down, Mayabara-san. I can have the local officers head to your location. I'll be there soon too. I think that's impossible. His voice was quivering and hoarse. He wasn't surrounded by people even as he was making his call, was he? Mayabara-san, you're calling from the payphone now, right? Where's that payphone? There were no other sounds beside Mayabara-kun's voice. It had to be a phone booth. I scratched down a note and thrust it at my colleague sitting across from me. Hinamizawa phone booth. He understood quickly and hastily started on the internal lines. Calm down, Mayabara-san. What's your current situation? It usually wasn't a good idea to tell someone panicking to do so, but this was not a usual case. Mayabara-kun didn't just get in trouble, get away, then call me. He was in the midst of something dangerous right now. But yelling at Mayabara-kun right now which has needlessly caused him to be even more frantic. Manabara-kun wasn't just calling to seek help. He was trying to tell us something more than that. Whatever that was, if I didn't get it from this call, I was certain there would never be another chance. My colleague pushed a note in front of me. There's only one booth in Hinamizawa. A patrol car is on the way. 5 minutes. That's too long. How many officers are in there? 2. Not enough. If it was as I imagined, there were likely quite a few people surrounding Mayabara-kun. 5 minutes was too long. Did you call the officer stationed in Hinamizawa? He's scheduled to be on patrol. They're currently out, and it'll be impossible to contact them. God damn! Kuma-chan, bring the car around. Understood. Hello? Oishi-san? Hello? It's alright. I can hear you loud and clear. There was something wrong with Mayabara-kun. This was a normal coughing sound. Vomiting? Or was it blood? Had he already been attacked? Was he injured? Mayabara-san, the police are on their way. They'll be there in a couple of minutes, so hold on somehow. Hello? Can you hear me? Mayabara-san! I could hear the under end of the line that he was having a coughing fit. The worst possible situation popped into my head. Mayabara-san! Who's the culprit? How many are there? I thought at first the culprit was human. I couldn't tell if it was a cough or vomit. Are you alright? Mayabara-san! I thought that the culprit was a person, and not Yashiro-sama's curse. Up until right now, but I guess in the end. There was an intense bout of coughing, then vomiting, but I guess Yashiro-sama does exist. No, he's here. Mayabara-san, please, just calm down. I've been thinking it was strange for a while now. It's been following me this whole time. I run and run and run and run and run, but it just sticks to me like a shadow. Slowly, so slowly, it's digging itself into my back. Mayabara-san, are they right now, perhaps? Right behind you. Behind me. Right behind me. Please, Mayabara-san, I can tell you're scared, but please, who is it that's right behind you? I can't just look behind me. If I do, I understand that you're scared, but please tell me. You just need to turn around a bit. Who is it? Who's behind you, Mayabara-san? Right after I said that, I could hear him vomiting immensely. What followed was a nightmarish sound. Mayabara-san, it couldn't be that you're clawing out your own throat. There was no answer, but I could hear something like scratching. There was a bang, as if something had been hit. Mayabara-kun had probably dropped the receiver. I could hear groaning and vomiting over the other end, and a repeating abnormal noise. Hello? Hello? Mayabara-san! Hello! I knew from far away my voice would sound on the other end. But I couldn't help but shout. At that moment I heard whispering coming from the other end. I couldn't tell what he was saying. From the way he was saying it, was he talking to himself? Or was he talking to someone there? Hello? Mayabara-san? Rather than whispering, some kind of mantra he was chanting over and over. I focused my senses, trying to pick up on what he was saying. What was he repeating? What exactly? Suddenly the line went dead. Did he use up his time? It was because it was a payphone. It was because it cut out so abruptly. The last thing he said came out so clearly in my mind. Oishi-san, the car's good to go. Oishi-san? It was... I'm sorry. Oishi-san? That's what he was repeating over and over. He said, I'm sorry. I had a gut feeling. There was no longer a need to hurry. I could hear the chirp of the Higurashi spilling in from the open window. I should have been able to hear them this entire time. I just wasn't paying any attention. Why did I focus on them all of a sudden? Were they trying to tell me something? Only the Higurashi knew. That's how I felt. 」 . July 1983. In Hinamizawa, a remote village near Shichibone City, there was a murder involving 2 female students. The suspect is Keiichi Maibara, age probably 16 or 17. The suspect called over his 2 female classmates, then Yugu and Miyonzi Nozaki, to his house and beat them to death with a metal bat. The scene of the crime was the suspect's room in the 2nd floor of his house. The inside of the room was covered with a significant quantity of splattered blood, and there were signs of a struggle with the victims. In addition to the scene of the crime, the entryway, living room, and kitchen all had traces of a struggle. At the entryway, the shoe rack and wall had evidence of being impacted by a strong blunt force. It's believed to have been the same bat as the murder weapon. Having no traces of blood, it is believed the destruction occurred before the murders. There is the possibility that the suspect overpowered its victims to keep them from fleeing. In the living room, the rug had been pulled back, then thrown aside. It's hard to believe that this had a connection to the struggle with the victims, and thus the reason for this remains unknown. In the kitchen, the garbage bag was torn apart and its contents were spread out on the floor. Garbage was strewn about in the surrounding area, and handprints were believed to belong to the suspect were discovered. It's believed the suspect had, for some reason, taken out the garbage and stuck it with his fist. The reason for this remains unknown. Did no one find the note in the syringe on the back of the clock? The words, "where was the needle" was what? The meaning behind this remains unclear. Was there a need? It was just in case the garbage was searched, but a needle was not discovered. Though the garage door was functional, it had been left open ever since the suspect moved in. The garage door was found closed. Suspect's fingerprints were discovered on the garage door. The reason behind this remains unknown. The suspect fled the scene of the crime. However, a patrolling officer, Hinamizawa local PD, found the suspect collapsed inside a phone booth. At the time of discovery, the suspect was unconscious and in critical condition. He was rushed to the local hospital for treatment, but did not regain consciousness, and died 24 hours later. The results of the autopsy indicate the immediate cause of death to have been hypovolemic shock. It was determined that the suspect had clawed at his own throat with his fingernails, and the resulting bleeding caused his death. With a similarity to the death of Tomitake-san the prior week before, the police believed there to be a connection and have opened an investigation. However, due to the wishes of local authorities, it will be a confidential investigation. Due to the abnormal nature of the death, it was suspected that drugs were involved, but as with Tomitake-san, no traces were discovered. What prompted all this remains inexplicable. As such, this case is being treated as an act committed on impulse. However, with several accounts of the suspect's bizarre behavior leading up to the incident, it is possible that this was premeditated. Separated from his group of friends, isolation, inexplicable behavior, several days before the incident, the suspect began carrying around a metal bat. The suspect was observed displaying aggressive behavior, as well as talking to himself at school. His classmates have actually heard portions of what he was saying. 2 days before the incident, the suspect declared to his parents the possibility of his death. Due to these circumstances, the police have begun an investigation on the possibility that this crime was not committed on impulse, but was instead planned several days in advance. Afterwards, a note was found in the suspect's room that he had written himself. The note was written on 2 sheets of B5 college-ruled notebook that had been torn in half, as if it was trying to conceal what was stuck behind the clock. Contents are written in the appendix. The police believe it to be strongly related to the incident. The police changed the line of investigation based on the possibility that the suspect was involved in some sort of incident himself. However, no further clues were found, casting doubt on the credibility of the note. Was the crime impulsive or premeditated? With the situation unclear and no further developments, it was unresolved. However, the following year, suspicion arose regarding the nature of the note. The note was not written in 2 halves of B5 from 2 separate sheets, but was originally a single sheet of B5 paper. In order to erase several lines from the middle, someone had torn them out. Judging from the size of the letters, the missing section is estimated to be 2 to 3 lines. It's highly probable that the person who eliminated the lines in question was not the suspect. In addition, judging from traces of large quantities of cellophane tapes being stuck to the bag, the speculation means something other than that had been stuck Person who first discovered the crime was a detective rumored to have a connection to the incident. Kurado Oishi underwent voluntary questioning but denies involvement in the damages. Suspect's notes. I, Keiichimara, am in fear for my life. I do not know why they are after my life. The only thing I do know is that it has to do with Oyashiro-sama's curse. Nana and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. There were 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This is all on the first sheet. Everything below has been ripped out. This is from the second sheet. Everything above has been ripped out. I have no idea why it has become like this. If you're reading this, then I'm probably already dead. Though the only difference may be the presence or lack of body. You who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. Keiichi Maebara. They ripped out the middle part.